Book review The Incandescent by Emily Tesh. Look at you eating magic like you're one of us. Emily Tesh's The Incandescent is gleaming, shadow-drenched exploration of power, self-destruction, and queer desire set in a world where magic is both an art and predatory force. It is, at first glance, dark academia fantasy. Boarding school, brilliant but emotionally distant teacher, dangerously curious students, demonic threat festering beneath centuries of tradition. But Tesh takes this familiar architecture and guts it, building something stranger and more intimate. What emerges is not only fantasy of magic and monsters, but a moral ambiguity, personal legacy, and the cost of brilliance. This novel is an extraordinary convergence of literary fantasy, psychological horror, and queer emotional realism. If Naomi Novik's Golements series mapped out the intellectual ferocity and danger of magical schooling and plain bad heroines by Emily M. Danforth gave us the atmosphere. Queerness of boarding school gothic, The Incandescent stands somewhere between the two, but carved entirely in its own voice. It's a book about power and restraint, hunger and isolation, and ultimately the terrifying intimacy of being known. Plot summary. The Incandescent is sapphic dark academia fantasy that explores power, obsession, and the blurred boundaries between self and magic, set within the storied walls of the Chetwood School. Prestigious, centuries-old institution dedicated to the study and mastery of magic. Emily Tesh weaves narrative that is at once haunting and intimate, filled with sharp prose, sly humor, and emotional depth. At the center of the story is Doctor Walden, the formidable director of magic at Chetwood. Revered and feared in equal measure, Walden is brilliant, ruthlessly efficient, and wields prodigious command over magic. Her reputation precedes her not just as scholar and administrator, but as war mage who once did terrible and necessary things. Keep the magical world intact. Now within the confines of Chetwood, she finds solace in structure, teaching and vocation to her advanced sixth formers, attending endless meetings and shoring up the magical defenses that keep demons at bay. Among the chaos of teen magic users, Walden's class includes 4 particularly promising students. Each bright, volatile, and profoundly gifted, they are a mess of insecurities and potential, challenging Walden's discipline and testing her patience. Yet it is in these students that Walden sees reflections of her younger self. Hungry for power, haunted by inadequacy, and recklessly curious, the novel begins with an incursion. Minor demon, clever, whispering, too confident, breaches the school's outer wards. It's quickly dispatched, but its signal to protect. Layers keeping otherworldly forces out are thinning. As Walden investigates, she begins to suspect that something or someone inside the school is responsible. At the same time she begins to unravel, Walden is haunted by visions and strange dreams. Objects move on their own, her magic stutters and then surges unpredictably. The voice she hears whispering in her mind is not entirely her own, her connection to magic. The source of her strength and identity comes erratic, intimate, seductive. The boundary between magician and magic begins to blur. Her students notice the changes first. Some are drawn to her unraveling brilliance. Others are afraid. Among them is Talia Harrow, fiercely intelligent and intuitive student who shares Walden's drive and loneliness. As the two form tenuous mentorship, their bond deepens into something more intense, mutual recognition, and perhaps the beginnings of forbidden love. But even as Talia earns Walden's guarded trust, she begins her own dangerous experiments, chasing the incandescent flame of magic too closely. The school's history comes into focus. Chetwood was not merely built as a sanctuary for learning. It was constructed to seal binding great demonic power beneath its foundations. Over centuries, the founding rituals weakened. Successive directors of magic, Walden included, have patched and reinforced the seal, but the time has come when even her formidable will might not be enough. The demon is waking, and worse. It knows Walden's name. Walden is forced to confront her past, the choices she made during the war, the acts of violence she committed in the name of victory, the pieces of herself she gave to the magic she serves. She begins. Understand that her brilliance was never without cost, that she may have made herself vessel long ago. The demon below Chetwood is not merely an external threat. It is reflection of something inside her, hunger she has never fully denied. When one of her students disappears during a forbidden ritual, Walden and Talia descend into the hidden heart of the school. They are deep beneath the layers of arcane history and blood-soaked stone. They uncover the truth. The seal is breaking because someone or something is helping it break. The demon isn't trying to possess Walden, that already has. She has been its unwitting emissary, her brilliance and control facade masking slow possession that began years ago. Explosive final act, Walden makes harrowing choice. To protect Chetwood, she must confront the part of herself that has come tainted by demonic influence. With Talia's help and drawing on the raw, chaotic energy of the students she once held at arm's length, she weaves new invocation. one that doesn't bind or banish but transforms. In moment of incandescent clarity, Walden offers herself not as prison but as sacrifice, binding within her own soul to neutralize its threat. But she does not die. In the aftermath, Walden survives. But change, the demon's influence is sealed inside her, kept in check by constant vigilance and the connection she has forged with others. Especially Talia, the school is saved, the student scarred but safe, and Chetwood remains standing, yet Walden is no longer the solitary master of magic. She has learned that power, while dazzling, is not enough. It must be shared, tamed, loved. The incandescent ends not with triumph, but quiet continuity. New term begins. Students return. The threat is over. For now. But the work of magic and learning continues. And Walden, for the first time in decades, is not alone. This dark poetic tale explores identity, trauma, mentorship, and the cost of brilliance and system that demands sacrifice. Fans of the Scalmans will appreciate its magical rigor, intense academic setting, while admirers of plain bad heroines will find it. And its gothic queer intimacy and psychological complexity. The Incandescent is luminous and layered fantasy, equal parts terrifying and tender. The premise: a magician at the edge. Dr. Walden, the director of magic at Chetwood School, is our reluctant protagonist. Woman of immense magical capability, razor-sharp intellect, and profound loneliness. She is, by all accounts, genius and war hero, revered and feared. Her life is governed by routines, teaching sixth formers advanced in vocation, maintaining the protective boundaries of the school, enduring bureaucratic meetings with dull colleagues, vigilantly watching for demonic incursions. Walden is also crucially woman, hollowed out by her own mastery. Magic in Tesh's world is not just tool, it's living force. Voluptuous, seductive, hungry. To wield it at the level Walden does is to constantly teeter on the edge of being consumed. Tesh makes this tension visceral from the opening chapter, and it never lets up. Even when she is at her most composed, Walden is always one heartbeat away from annihilation, which makes her such a deeply compelling narrator. What begins as routine year spirals quickly. Demon breaches the school's perimeter. One of Walden's students is caught whispering spells she should not know. Strange visions haunt Walden's dreams. The wards are weakening. The seal that holds back great old entity, being tied intimately to Walden's own past. Ailing, but perhaps the greatest threat to the school is not what's beneath it, but what's inside its most powerful magician. Magic is metaphor, magic is character. One of Tesh's greatest achievements in The Incandescent is her reimagining of magic, not just a system of rules or rituals, but as character in itself. Your magic is predatory. It has taste, mood, appetite. It recognizes its own. The best magicians are those who can form relationship with it. But that relationship is never equal. Magic is like love or a parasite. God, it will make you extraordinary. It will also hollow you out. Dr. Walden, we learn, is someone who has already been partially consumed. Her emotional distance isn't just a matter of temperament. It's survival mechanism. Tesh writes her descent, or perhaps return to intimacy with devastating care. Walden's interactions with her students, especially the gifted and reckless Talia Harrow, reveal the strain of someone trying desperately not to care too much, because caring means vulnerable, and being vulnerable means inviting magic. And its demons, and it's in this dynamic that The Incandescent becomes not just fantasy novel, but psychological study. Walden's relationship with magic reflects the way trauma shapes desire, the things we crave because they once hurt us. Her brilliance becomes her curse, and Tesh examines this through language that is often exquisite, unsettling, and sensual. The school is the living history. Chetwood School is more than a setting. It is an entity in its own right. Part fortress, part cathedral, part prison. Its very walls are embedded with ancient wards, blood rituals, and centuries of arcane history. It is a place where children come to become powerful, but also to be shaped and contained. Think Harrow the Ninth meets deadly education, but with fewer whimsical flourishes and more rot beneath the floorboards. What's refreshing is how The Incandescent interrogates the institutional legacy of magical education. Chetwood's foundations are literally built atop sealed demon. The school's very function depends on suppressing that threat, and yet no one really questions the ethics of that original binding or who it served. Tesh subtly critiques how elite magical institutions can justify horrific acts in the name of tradition and protection. The implication is institutions like Chetwood don't create safety. They outsource danger onto the vulnerable. Students, the magically gifted, poor, and often young women. This tension reaches its peak in the final act when we discover the demon isn't trying to destroy Chetwood. It's been part of Chetwood all along. Its power is the foundation. Its voice echoes through invocation itself. The real horror isn't the demon. It's that everyone, especially Walden, has lived hop this rot. The cast of ghosts and girls. Walden's students are highlight of the novel. vivid, flawed, and intensely real. Each represents different kind of danger, arrogance, recklessness, vulnerability, idealism. But among them, Talia Harrow emerges as foil to Walden, young woman with extraordinary magical sensitivity and no desire to be contained. Talia is hungry, furious, and brilliant, and she sees Walden clearly not just as teacher, but as someone who has survived something terrible and refused to let anyone else witness it. Their relationship is the emotional of the book, and Tesh walks careful line. This is not romance in any conventional sense. There's yearning, certainly, queer, fierce, and dangerous. But what binds them is not love exactly, it's recognition. Talia sees in Walden the future she might become. Walden sees in Talia the self she once was. There's desire, yes, but it is tangled with fear, guilt, admiration, and kind of metaphysical kinship. Talia is the first person to make Walden feel truly, and being seen in Tesh's world is the first step toward either salvation or destruction. Supporting characters, colleagues, other students, even the bureaucrats of the magical world, are sketched with just enough clarity to feel real without distracting from the book's central emotional thrust. But make no mistake, this is Walden's story. Everyone else orbits her gravity. The writing, precision, and heat. Emily Tesh writes with extraordinary control. Her prose is elegant, precise, and occasionally feral. She can flip from dry academic wit to lyrical horror in single paragraph. This tonal agility is crucial. It allows her to depict magical rituals with clinical realism one moment and then describe demon pressing into Walden's thoughts like forgotten lover the next. The language mirrors the book's emotional landscape. Aloof but feverish intellect. At aching, there's scene midway through where Walden stands at the center of summoning circle and essentially dares the demon within her to speak. It's electric. Not because of the magical stakes, but because it reads like confrontation between an addict and the substance that once ruled her life. Tesh knows how to write moments of stillness and intensity so that they burn on the page. And crucially, the book is deeply, unapologetically queer, not just in the sense of desires whom, but in its entire worldview. Power structures are questioned, norms are disrupted, intimacy is found in unexpected places. The queer sensibility here is political and poetic. Deep refusal to flatten relationships into easy binaries of good, evil, teacher, student, human. The ending, revelation, and reckoning. The final act of The Incandescent is both epic and intimate. As the seal breaks and the demon begins to rise, Walden is forced to confront not only the creature beneath Chetwood, but the creature she has come. What follows is not battle in the traditional sense, but reckoning. The solution is not to destroy the demon, but to contain it within herself on her own terms. To finally acknowledge that what makes her dangerous also makes her human, that her capacity for magic, for violence, for love cannot be separated. It's bold choice. Not redemptive exactly, but transformative. Walden survives. Talia stays. The school continues. But nothing is neat. The trauma is still there. The costs remain. And yet there's quiet hope, an opening, possibility that power need not always consume, that intimacy need not always wound. Idle thoughts. A masterwork of queer gothic fantasy. The Incandescent is triumph. Ambitious, psychologically rich, and stylistically precise. It asks hard questions about power, legacy, and the ethics of containment. It explores queerness not as decoration but as essence. It treats magic not as spectacle but as metaphor for obsession, trauma, and transformation. It gives us a protagonist who is not likable in the conventional sense, but unforgettable in every other one. Emily Tesh has written a novel that is incandescent in every sense of the word. Blazing, dangerous, impossible to ignore. It will not be for everyone. It is slow in parts, emotionally harrowing, and uninterested in tidy resolutions. But for readers who crave intelligent fantasy that cuts deep and burns bright, The Incandescent is essential.